Well, here we are back in Nahum. We're in Nahum chapter 2 today, a momentous chapter, as we'll see in a minute here. Just wanted to thank you, those who support this ministry. I appreciate your prayers. I appreciate your financial support. Comes in for some of you very regularly every month, and I really appreciate that. Really helps me defray some of the costs associated with Theofaith, not only the video costs and the cost of social media, but just some of the resources that I use to prepare these things and other studies. Also, wanted to point out that I have another study going on Theofaith that you might be interested in called Vital Faith. The idea behind Vital Faith is to equip us to stand firm in the difficult times that are coming and really are breaking upon us right now, helping us to do that by giving us right thinking and right doing, to give us the right theology and the right living. Those things go together. They always go together. It's false teachers who break apart what you know and how you live, but true teachers bring those two things together, and that's what Vital Faith is trying to do. We're looking at some key doctrines, things like the Bible, the nature of man, the nature of God, nature of salvation, the rapture of the church, the second coming of the Lord, his kingdom, as well as particular practices that have always been edifying and encouraging for believers, things like prayer and worship and fellowship and many others. So you might want to join us for that as well. I post those just about every Monday on YouTube. This is based on a series I'm doing at my church as well, and you might be interested in that. Let's turn to Nahum now, Nahum chapter 2. It's a chapter I've titled Scattered, as you'll see here. Begins in verse 1 with the one who scatters has come up against you. So the one who scatters is the Lord himself. You, in this case, who has come up against you. This is Nineveh, and Nineveh is standing for the whole nation here, for Assyria. What's happening is that God has brought this Assyrian empire up, used them to chastise his people of the northern tribes of Israel, the 10 northern tribes. And now they're about to fade from the scene here. That's what we see. So verses 1 and 2 are a warning. Verses 3 down to about 5 are a description of the invasion that's of Israel. And then verses 6 to 10 talk about the doom of Nineveh. And then 11 through 13, the destruction. So again, warning, invasion, doom, and destruction. Not a happy chapter for Nineveh, for sure. So what we see in verses 3 through 5 is this is kind of a prophetic description of what's about to fall them. This is the nation of Babylon. Could be Babylon in the Medes as well, are about to invade Assyria. So what we're witnessing in history is the decline of one empire and the rising up of another. The Assyrian Empire was used by God to chasten the northern kingdom, and Isaiah had predicted in Isaiah chapter 10 that they would be raised up and brought down when God is done with them. Same thing's going to happen to Babylon. Babylon's going to be raised up for a time. They're going to be used to chasten Israel, and then they are going to be invaded, overcome by the Persian Empire, Medo-Persian Empire. That empire is going to actually allow Israel to return to the land. So what we see here in these verses and in this chapter is God orchestrating these geopolitical events. And he's doing this around Israel, around his people. So it's been well said that if you want to understand God's prophetic activities, watch Israel. And that's what we see here. So again, beginning in verse 3, we see this very graphic description of what's going to happen. The shields of his mighty men, his being Babylon here, his mighty men are colored red. The warriors are dressed in scarlet. what it's depicting here is his warriors drenched in blood. Chariots are enveloped in flashing steel. When he is prepared to march, and the cypress spear, when he is prepared to march, and the cypress spears are brandished. So what we have here is it's really Babylon's decision on when to invade. When they invade, it's going to be devastating. It's going to overcome the Ninevites, overcome Assyria so quickly. God is orchestrating this, and he is in charge of all these events. We don't want to lose sight of that, even for today, that we see horrendous things going on in Eastern Europe. We see them going on in the Middle East. There's tensions in China. There's collapse, apparently, here even in the United States. God is at work in all these things. We don't want to be taking a view of the world that's centered in geopolitical conflict, or a view of the United States that's centered in the conflict between political parties, but we want to be rooted and grounded in a worldview that sees God at work in all these things, and that's what we see here as we discuss the doom of Nineveh. Verse 7 talks about moaning, like the sound of doves, beating their breasts. What's that all about? That's mourning. Mourning over the dead, mourning over the demise of their once great city. Verses 8 to 10, Nineveh was like a pool of water throughout her days. Now they are fleeing. Stop, but no one returns. Plunder the silver, plunder the gold. So what it's saying here is that in its time, in its heyday, Nineveh was a great collector of the wealth of the world, right? They were invading nations, plundering those nations, bringing the nation's wealth back into Nineveh. They became kind of like a big pool of wealth, and now all that wealth is leaking out. It's like a flood that's fleeing the city, and it's collapsing. Verses 11 through 13, we see Nineveh now talked about its destruction. That was its doom, its destruction. This imagery of a den of lions, the feeding place of the young lions, where the lion, the lioness, and the lion's club prowled with nothing to disturb them. Where is that? So it's like as if Nineveh was a strong lion in its den, protecting itself and gorging itself on the things that it captured, things that it conquered. That's the picture here. Where's that now? That's what God's asking here. Where did all that go? And the Lord of hosts, verse 13, answers that question. Behold, I am against you, declares the Lord of hosts. This is Yahweh Sabaoth. This is the God of armies. That's what that's saying. This is a warrior God. He is a forgiving God. He is a patient God. He is a long-suffering God, but he's also a God of destruction. He's also a warrior God that's bringing vengeance on those people that oppressed his nation and turned their back on him. So God is really, as we look at this, reminded that God is the power of every geopolitical event that is going on around the globe. He always has been, always will be. He's orchestrating all these things for the benefit of his holy nation. Getting ready for the coming of the Messiah is what he's doing. These things don't happen to us as much as they happen for us, that God is orchestrating things in the earth now to set the stage for the coming of Jesus, that final conquering warrior God that's going to come. So remember that and be focused on that, and know that things are not falling apart as bad as they seem sometimes, but they're really falling into place. That Jesus will come back as he has promised. He will rapture his church, take his church to himself, and continue his program with Israel to bring them to repentance. So God bless you, brothers and sisters. May the Lord use this to encourage you, help you stand firm, help you have a worldview that's really centered in the power and the presence of God. God bless you.